Halloween afternoon, October 31st, 2010 in South Los Angeles. 5-year-old Aaron Shannon Jr. could barely contain his excitement. He had just gotten a brand new Spider-Man costume, and in his eyes, that meant he was the real hero for the day. In the backyard of his family's home, Aaron jumped from chair to chair, showing off his moves while his father, uncles, and grandfather laughed and cheered him on. It was one of those small, perfect family moments. Then, in a single instant, everything changed. 2 men appeared in the alley behind the house, gang members searching for rivals who supposedly lived nearby. They had nothing to do with the Shannon family, but as they stood there, watching the backyard, one of them suddenly raised a gun and opened fire. Aaron was hit in the back of the head while he was mid-jump. The bright red of his costume turned darker as he collapsed. His father held him in his arms, begging him to stay awake. Paramedics arrived 6 minutes later and rushed him to Harbor UCLA Medical Center, where doctors fought for hours to save him, but the damage was too severe. At 5:42 p.m., Aaron was pronounced dead, still wearing his Spider-Man costume. He was only 5 years old. The 2 men responsible were later arrested and convicted. The memory of that day, when a child pretending to be a superhero became the victim of a senseless act of violence. We go back to Austin, Texas, on October 31st, 1984. 12-year-old Jessica Harrington had spent weeks working on her Halloween costume, a homemade scarecrow she designed with her mom. Together, they stitched burlap strips onto an old pair of overalls and finished it with a floppy hat and a big smile painted on her cheeks. That night, she was glowing with excitement, proudly showing off her work as she joined 3 of her friends for trick-or-treating. The group wandered through the neighborhood, laughing as they compared candy hauls. The streets were alive with porch lights, laughter, and the soft flicker of dozens of glowing jack-o'-lanterns. When they reached a house with several pumpkins lined up along the walkway, Jessica walked between them. The fabric brushed against an open flame. The dry burlap ignited instantly. The flames raced up her leg and across her body. Jessica's laughter turned into screams as panic spread. A nearby homeowner rushed out with a garden hose, desperately trying to douse the flames. By then, most of her costume had already burned away, leaving only smoke and embers. Jessica was still conscious when paramedics arrived, able to whisper her name through the pain as they cut away what remained of her costume. She suffered 3rd-degree burns, over 85% of her body, and severe damage to her lungs from inhaling the smoke. After 12 agonizing hours in the hospital, Jessica passed away. A tragedy that made flame-retardant Halloween fabrics a safety standard for generations that followed. Our next story comes from Portsmouth, Virginia, on Halloween night, 1967. 14-year-old James Earl Brown Jr. was out trick-or-treating with his friends, dressed in a simple ghost costume, an old white sheet with eye holes cut out. It wasn't fancy, but it was enough to make him feel part of the Halloween fun, overflowing with candy chocolate bars, bubble gum, all earned after hours of walking from house to house. As James turned a corner, he spotted another group of teenagers. One of them carried a grocery bag, bursting with sweets, far more than his own haul. James rushed forward and snatched the bag, laughing as he pulled it away and stepped back. A harmless prank in his mind, but it would turn deadly within moments. The boy he took it from shouted angrily, demanding his candy back. James refused. What he didn't see was the 3rd teenager standing behind him, a 16-year-old carrying a small knife. Without warning, the boy lunged forward and stabbed James in the side. The blade sliced cleanly through the sheet, piercing his lung. Blood began to soak through the white fabric. His friend screamed as he fell to the ground, gasping for air among the scattered candy. Neighbors called for help, but it was already too late. James was pronounced dead at the hospital less than an hour later. He was only 14, a boy whose night of Halloween fun turned into a tragedy over a bag of sweets. Local leaders called it the night Halloween lost its innocence. In response, Portsmouth and surrounding towns introduced age limits for trick-or-treating. In White Pine, Tennessee, on October 31st, 2018, a family Halloween outing ended in unspeakable tragedy. 4-year-old Caden Shane Robinson was dressed as a little ninja turtle, his plastic mask slightly crooked on his face, his small hands clutching a bright orange candy bucket. His parents had decided to make the night extra special. They loaded up their minivan and slowly drove through the neighborhood, letting the kids hop out at each house. It was supposed to be safe, simple, and full of laughter. But just after 7:45 p.m., as the van rolled down a quiet street lined with jack-o'-lanterns and laughing children, Caden noticed something fall from his bucket. A full-sized Snickers bar, his favorite. Without saying a word, he slid the side door open while the vehicle was still moving, determined to grab it before it hit the curb. In the blink of an eye, the unthinkable happened. Caden lost his balance and fell from the van, landing directly beneath the rear wheel. His parents heard the thud and his scream almost at the same time. His father shouted for the van to stop, but it was already too late. The rear tire had rolled over him. Someone called 911 and others tried CPR, but the boy's injuries were far too severe. Caden was pronounced dead at the scene. The tragedy shook the entire community. People left candles, stuffed Ninja Turtle toys, and flowers at the site for days. Police later confirmed it was a pure accident. No one was at fault. Just one tragic moment of a child's instinct to chase what he loved. For his parents, that single second of curiosity and innocence became a lifetime of pain, a devastating reminder that even on a night meant for joy, danger can hide in the smallest moments. Now we move to the Bronx, New York, on October 31st, 2013. It was just after 5 p.m., the perfect hour for trick-or-treating. The streets were alive with laughter, echoing between tall apartment buildings as kids darted from door to door. Among them was a 10-year-old girl dressed as Spider-Girl, proudly holding her candy bucket. She walked beside her grandfather and a close family friend. A 52-year-old man drove a Honda sedan nearby. Everything seemed normal until, without warning, he suffered a seizure behind the wheel. His hands locked on the steering wheel, and the car veered sharply toward the sidewalk. The sedan jumped the curb, slamming into the little girl first. Candy scattered across the pavement as parents nearby rushed to help, their shouts echoing through the chaos. When emergency crews arrived, the girl and her grandfather were already gone. The man walking beside them died later in surgery. The driver survived but had no memory of what happened. Doctors later confirmed it was an unexpected grand mal seizure, something he'd never experienced before. It became one of the saddest Halloweens New York had ever seen. In Chunky, Mississippi, on October 31st, 2016, a group of friends and families were trick-or-treating in a rural area where houses were far apart. To make the night easier, they loaded up a utility trailer with hay bales and decorations, attaching it to the back of a Jeep. 9 people, mostly kids, rode on that trailer, laughing and singing as they went down Highway 80 at about 15 miles per hour. But out of the darkness came a Ford F-150 pickup truck, speeding at nearly 70 miles an hour. The driver didn't see the trailer until it was too late. There were no skid marks, no signs of braking. The impact was devastating. The truck hit the back of the trailer at full speed, tearing it apart instantly. Children and adults were thrown across the road. Candy buckets and costumes scattered over the asphalt. 3 children, Christina 7, Bailey 9, and Brooke 8, lost their lives that night. Several others were left badly injured. First responders described the scene as something they would never forget. One moment of joy turning into chaos and heartbreak. It happened in Chicago, Illinois, on October 31st, 2011. 2 longtime friends, Little Peoples and Maria Adams, had spent the evening handing out candy and laughing at the costumes of neighborhood kids. As the night quieted down, they sat in the living room talking until Liddell noticed one of his unopened bags of candy was missing. He accused Maria of taking it. She denied it, but what began as a simple disagreement quickly turned into shouting. Neighbors later said they could hear the argument through the walls, growing louder by the minute. Then came the sound of shattering glass. Maria had thrown a ceramic plate, cutting Liddell's face. In a flash of anger, he grabbed a kitchen knife and stabbed her multiple times in the chest. Maria stumbled outside, collapsing on the sidewalk in front of trick-or-treaters, her Halloween decorations still glowing behind her. Children screamed as parents rushed to pull them away. She was pronounced dead just minutes later. Police later found the missing candy bag still sealed under the couch. Finally, in Boone Beach, Florida, on October 31st, 2019, 5-year-old Sophia Martinez was out trick-or-treating, fluttering from house to house in a bright butterfly costume. Her colorful wings shimmered under the streetlights as she ran to keep up with her cousins. Her aunt, Maria Gonzalez, followed behind in her SUV, driving slowly with the hazard lights on, keeping the kids in view. It was a safety routine they'd done every year, so they thought. As Sophia ran toward a house covered in spiderweb decorations, a loud noise from another street startled her. She suddenly turned back and darted into the road, straight into the SUV's path. Maria hit the brakes, but it was too late. The vehicle struck Sophia and rolled over her. Her mother's screams pierced the night as neighbors rushed outside to help, their Halloween lights flickering in the background. When paramedics arrived, there was nothing they could do. Sophia died at the scene, her tiny wings crushed beneath the car. Her aunt was never charged, but she was hospitalized for shock and grief. Family members said she never drove again after that night. If you found this video eye-opening, give it a like and subscribe for more real-life stories that reveal the hidden dangers behind ordinary moments.